Hey, you can be a Ram fan and still see what's going on. This is RamView.
It's hot out there, so let's blow them off the line of scrimmage. Headline,
Live from the Ram Cave, I'm Joe Terosian, and this is RamView, the September 8th, 2023 edition, brought to you by Kistler Law Firm. Injured in an auto accident? Need help? Got questions? Call Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. That's Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. And check out KistlerLawFirm.com. That's one word, KistlerLawFirm.com. Kistler Law, they've been fighting for you since 92. And by Temple City Auto Repair. Having some auto issues? Get yourselves some John and Henry at TempleCityAutoRepair.com. And by Granite Ridge Christian Camp, a place where your life can change. So we had the game last night. I predicted Lions 37-31. It turns out it was the Lions, 21-20? Oh, phone's ringing. It's Bill Plaschke. Yeah, I'm not going to answer it. Okay. Bill Plaschke, I had to tell him it's not racist. Anyway, my thoughts on the game, Lions 21, Chiefs 20. It wasn't a perfect game. Everyone knew that, but it was just fun to watch meaningful football. And that's the great thing about football, right? Is football tests us like no other. I think internally, the other sports, they can question your nerve and your resolve in terms of keeping your cool. Football does that, but it also takes a physical toll. You're always going to pay a price, and that's why exhibition football just doesn't work. It always means something, right? So it was a pretty special game to watch after, we haven't seen one since the Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes, I posted it last night. Patrick Mahomes can make lemonade out of cranberries that are stewed like prunes. By that, I'm convinced is that he can make almost anybody into a household name, get them a second contract, except Kadarius Toney. Kadarius Toney, 5 targets, 1 catch, and numerous drops, including the touchdown that he gifted the Lions last night. I think we're starting to see some of the reasons why Kadarius Toney is no longer with the G-Men and why Brian Daboll was pretty happy to move off of him. He didn't move off Daniel Jones. He didn't move off some other guys, but Toney, who was a high pick, Brian Daboll and the Giants moved off of him pretty quick. And I think the Chiefs, maybe they got the best there is out of Toney already. Someone said it today. Maybe I saw it in a couple of places, is that, first game, I get it. You didn't play preseason. Hey, maybe you're just getting in shape. I understand that. But manos de pegamento, hands of glue, are a skill that you have. Either you can catch or you can't catch. And Kadarius Toney can't catch. It reminds me of that Sid Gilman line, and I wish I could use it if I could find it somewhere and have it be audible enough, where a player says, the coach says, it went off his hands, and Sid Gilman says, well, he's got no hands. Get him out of the game. And Kadarius Toney, wow, did not look good. Now maybe he'll bounce back. Cool. Chris Jones, internally, externally, he'll say all the right things and put out the correct body language, the Chiefs DT that set out last night. But I will say internally, he's thrilled the Chiefs lost last night because he was just counting the money, especially on that last drive where they just kept running it up the gut and David Montgomery's touchdown. It would have been nice to have Chris Jones there for Chief fans. So, I think he's not going to say anything, and you're going to doubt me, but I'm telling you, don't doubt me on this. Chris Jones was happy his team lost last night because it's a 17-game season. They know they can recover from this, and he knows he'll get that extension at some point very, very soon. With that said, let's get to the Lions. Funnest team in the NFL outside of the Rams to watch. I really enjoy Dan Campbell, really happy to see their success because he was written off by so many people. But with that said, I thought the Lions with their offensive line should have pounded the ball more. Sometimes I don't know. I shouldn't say sometimes. For the first time, the Lions offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, who was great, who wisely skipped taking some of these HC jobs out there between the Texans and Arizona and some of these places where you really don't want to go, did the smart thing and stuck it out in Detroit because something's building there. I thought he should have pounded the ball more. They've got a really good offensive line in Detroit. The Chiefs didn't have Chris Jones, and there was opportunity there. And, of course, Marvin Jones gave back opportunity when he fumbled that ball back to the Chiefs inside the red zone. With less than 3 to play, I love the call for Detroit to go it on 4th and 2. That was the pass that was knocked down on Jared Goff's throw. But I would have kept it on the ground there. I just think they missed an opportunity to really inflict a pounding on the Chiefs in terms of physically that may have made things easier down the stretch. But, hey, you got the win. It worked out. I think Jahmyr Gibbs, I'm so happy I drafted him on one of my fantasy teams. The Chiefs' 4th down calls again boils down to, what are you doing? You know, I had a pastor friend text me last night saying, you know, why do you take the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands on 4th and short? Well, what are you getting too cute for, right? And that's exactly what the Chiefs do. They do get cute. I'm wondering if Eric Bieniemy is thinking, you know what? Oh, they haven't won yet this year without me as their OC. I jest. Regarding Goff, my friend Tim Burns, a loyal RamView follower here, Tim Burns loves Jared Goff. He thinks the Rams did him a little bit dirty. They gave up on him too soon. He believes the Rams still would have got to the Super Bowl. Plashke, man. Put this guy on silent. He still keeps bugging me. But I've maintained that we made the great decision. I think Goff takes you to a certain point. I don't know if Goff gets you over the hump. He is more than a bridge quarterback, a little bit more. I've maintained that the Goff we saw in 2017 and 2018 was not the Goff the Rams had in 2019 and 2020. In those 2 seasons, that Goff didn't play with confidence, and McVay obviously lost confidence in him. If you're a Ram fan, you also have to remember some of the throws he made were, what was he thinking? I think he needed a reset because the Goff we're seeing in Detroit is the Goff the Rams had when he led them on the key drive in New Orleans in the NFC title game, right? He's playing with a lot of confidence behind a good offensive line, great running game, solid receivers. Sam Laporta, he's going to be a stud. I'm really glad I drafted him, the rookie tight end for Detroit. And Goff's been a gift. For 2 solid seasons, he's allowed them to go about their rebuild, right, as a solid quarterback. And now they're off to a great start in season 3 when they expect to make some noise. He's definitely much more than a bridge quarterback. And my last ad with the Lions is this: Brad Holmes. Brad Holmes, the former scouting personnel lead with the Rams, is now the GM over there. He's been the GM the last 3 years. And Brad Holmes is a GM par excellence, right? This guy knows talent. He knows how to evaluate it. And for the first time, if you're a Lion fan, I know it's really hard to believe, right? I know it's really hard to believe, but you might want to start believing. Now, I don't know if Goff's going to be the guy. Sorry, Tim Burns, my good friend, but I don't know if Goff's going to be the guy to get them into the promised land, so to speak. But he's going to get them close. He's going to get them pretty close as long as everyone stays upright and walking. There's a lot of talent on that Lions team. Okay, a couple of things that just drive me crazy. It's time for the analytics crowd to place pick sixes or any kind of interception, right? Especially when they start with the ball going right through the receiver's hands into the receiver stat column and not the quarterbacks, right? I know baseball analytics has ERA, then has like real ERA or something like that. We have the unearned run in baseball that doesn't count towards the pitcher's ERA. They really need to take away these interceptions from the quarterbacks when they place it right in the hands of Kadarius Toney. It's ridiculous with all the analytics stuff that we've got going now. Everything is broken down. How teams do on the road in 75-degree weather outside in the red zone, right? We've got all that stat, but PFF can't break down when the receiver screws up a play and the interception goes into the quarterback's column. That really needs to start going into the receiver's column. Patrick Mahomes shouldn't be penalized statistically because of Kadarius Toney's incompetence in catching the ball. It's a fundamental thing. Catch the ball. You don't need to be in shape to catch the ball. You can catch the ball or you can't catch the ball. I'll hold to that. Also, I would look at it also, it starts with the ball going through the receiver's hands, but I really think there should be a clear investigation also with each pick is, did the receiver run the right route? You know, as somebody who played quarterback at a very, 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 very low level, I can't tell you how many times I was victimized by a down and out pass that's supposed to be at square cut, and my receiver rounded it off and left me hanging to dry, and the ball got picked off. That was his fault, not mine. But of course, you throw it, it looks like it's yours. And I guarantee you, Twitter would have been alight with all the seething anger about how much Matthew Stafford sucks if that same play had happened where Kadarius Toney let the ball go through his hands to Branch. Mahomes gets the benefit of the doubt. But that same play, they would have blamed, oh, Stafford threw another pick six. Get him out of here. He sucks. It happens, again, nature of the Rams fans versus the nature of the Chief fans probably. But, the analytics crowd needs to pick that up. Also, props again to Chris Collinsworth. He's the one that pointed it out, and it was so obvious when you really started looking at it, was Kansas City right tackle Jawan Taylor off the line of scrimmage. How it wasn't called, it was brutal. That really felt very cowboyish to me. And what I mean by cowboyish, not in attitude, but in terms of how it was viewed. As a Ram fan, a Cowboy hater, the Cowboys always get the benefit of the call. The Dallas Cowboys always do, right? And if you're in New Orleans for an important game, they get the call because of, they got to recover from Katrina 25 years later. But how that wasn't called is amazing. They can throw a flag on an offensive lineman if he's 18 inches past the line of scrimmage for an ineligible receiver downfield, but they couldn't see Jawan Taylor's butt lined up with, or head lined up with Creed Humphrey's butt. And with all that, Jawan Taylor still graded horribly and only a little above average with his cheat step in pass coverage, in pass blocking. Heck, even Creed Humphrey, the greatest Ram who never was, didn't grade super well last night. Okay, so we got that covered. We're going to get into some picks. We're going to get into the Rams thing and picks for this weekend as well. But first, just want to do some Rams news report, players that are injured and all that kind of stuff. Reports are everywhere reporting that Cooper Kupp, Stetson Bennett, and Hunter Long are going to go on the injured reserve. And I think, please let it happen. As you know, I said at the top of the show, you could be a diehard Ram fan and look at the first 3 weeks of the season and say, hey, Rams aren't going to win those games. I can look at the fourth game in Indy and say the Rams could win that game without Cooper Kupp. So let's get them totally mended. Cooper Kupp isn't the only player in the NFL dealing with a hammy right now. We're going to find out here, but get him out for a month. Just let him rest, let him recover, and let's bring him back to when the season really starts for the Rams, which will be the back half of the season. People are going to start selling out and say, oh, the Rams are, 1-5, 2-5, 3-6 in the first half of the season. Folks, it's a brutal schedule. The young players need to develop, and we're going to make our hay in the back half of the season. So let it happen. Kupp hurts, but here's the good news about that injury report. There are no offensive linemen on this list. None, right? And in regards to Kupp, last 2 weeks, we've been talking about putting him on the IR or him not playing. Sign Jarvis Landry or Kenny Golladay. Landry is consummate pro. Kenny Golladay has history with Matthew Stafford. Now, if you're replacing anyone else, Atwell, Skoranek, DeMarcus Robinson, then bring up Tyler Johnson. But you're replacing Kupp, and so it would be nice to have some gray hair, an experienced receiver in there, someone like Jarvis Landry or a familiar Kenny Golladay. In regards to signing a backup quarterback, we know this week it'll be Mark Rippon. But I remember honking back in the spring, long before the draft, when Carson Wentz was a free agent, not knowing which way the Rams were going to go. I was arguing, talk to Baker Mayfield, see if Mayfield will stay for a cheap contract and restart his career. He did well under McVay. Now, I understand someone's offering Baker Mayfield $8 million to go and have a chance to compete, and he is a starter with the Buccaneers this year. But my argument was he needed to have his career rehabilitated. Carson Wentz is the same thing. Carson Wentz is an enormous talent, but he needs to have his career and image rehabilitated. So if the dude is willing to come in cheap and be humble and sit, he could be really effective. If you do him well, and it would do the Rams well. Wentz is just 2 years away from a 27 touchdown, 7 interception season for the Colts. And if I remember, I think 2 of those picks were in week 2 against the Rams in 2021. And then there was a couple of bad picks at the end of the year, but he had a great year in 2021. And the Colts, sent him to Washington. But he could rejuvenate his career with the Rams. And maybe, just maybe, if who knows, if Stafford was to go down for 3 weeks and Wentz came in and played well, maybe, just maybe, he's a trade piece down the line for somebody that gets desperate. I've warmed to Stetson Bennett. I like Stetson Bennett, but I don't think 2023 is his time. I know he's older, but I think with time, he's going to have his mistakes when he does play, but I think down the road he will be solid backup quarterback for the Rams. But I like Wentz in terms of, and depending on his mindset, he gives them a chance to win if the Rams need to win some games. Bennett just kind of manages the store. Wentz can make plays to get you a couple of wins if Stafford were to go down. I can't tell you about Hunter Long. I really don't care. I was surprised there were this many tight ends on the roster anyway. So we'll see how this plays out, and we'll see who the Rams bring up or sign. I don't know if you really need to sign a tight end if you're running Higbee, Davis Allen, and Bryson Hopkins out there. I think a fourth tight end is kind of superfluous, right? There you go. News is that Joseph Noteboom will start at right guard. I like Tremaine Ankrum, but what I really like is a starting 5 that doesn't include Bobby Evans. Flash game. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I can't get this guy to turn off. Okay. This guy won't stop. He's all upset because I called him out because he said the tomahawk chop was racist. Unbelievable. Who is this guy? All right, good. We got rid of him. There we go. All right. Sorry about that. I apologize, folks. What I really like is a Rams starting 5 that doesn't include Bobby Evans. Ram News, they waived undrafted free agent Ryan Spenda from the injured list, and they took back Sean Jolly, and he's been placed on the injured reserve. Okay, around the NFL, still hanging around as free agents, Leonard Fournette, Kareem Hunt, and the aforementioned Jarvis Landry and Kenny Golladay. Okay, the Seahawks, Jamal Adams restructures his contract. Everyone's going to see a lot of restructures. Jimmy G was yesterday or the day before as the teams are making sure they got cap space as the season goes on. Kenneth Walker is listed as limited for Sunday with, we're not sure what the injury is. Jackson Smith and Jigba is expected to play. And yeah, they have some odds and ends. Kenny McIntosh is out. Devon Witherspoon is questionable. So that's what's going on with the Seahawks. For the 49ers, Big Money Bosa will play in Pittsburgh. Trent Williams and George Kittle restructured their contracts. And safety Travarius Ward, who we talked about the other day, 33 years old, is questionable with a issue with his heel. And, of course, Kittle is questionable with his groin. Hollywood Brown for the Cardinals is questionable. Note to the Los Angeles Chargers, note to the Bolts, you're Ishmael, you're not Jacob. No one in this town really wants you here. And don't big time the people who support you in LA. Just because it's Tua time this Sunday doesn't mean you got to turn your back on the folks that support you. Chargers, you know who I'm talking about. Bad mojo. I do like Justin Herbert, but if there's a way to mess things up, if there's 17 ways to do something right, the Chargers will always find the 18th way. So I like the Dolphins at SoFi on Sunday. Raiders, Chandler Jones is not playing this week in Denver. Chris Jones, Travis Kelce, you guys know that story. Cowboys, hamstring issue for left guard Tyler Smith, ankle for Tyron Smith. Cowboys are vulnerable as they go to New York. Terry McLaurin with the soft, actually the toe turf. He is playing for the Texans this weekend. That's why I didn't draft him in my fantasy draft. I do like Terry McLaurin. Darren Waller, tight end, questionable for the Giants. That's becoming reoccurring. Shaq Barrett with the Buccaneers restructures. I kept looking at that Lion team and thinking good for Goff, good for Josh Reynolds, 4 catches last night. But again, great for Brad Holmes. Really happy for him. Packers wide receiver Christian Watson is out. Romeo Doubs is questionable. Both have hamstring issues. Ravens cornerback who's on the IR right now, Marlon Humphrey, he restructures. And someone on the Bengals might have to restructure because Joe Burrow just got 5 years, $275 million. That means he's getting 55 rocks a year. Did I say Mark Rippon, Mr. Barker? Oh, man, I apologize. I got Mark Rippon on the brain because when I see Brent Rippon come in, I just want to see Mark Rippon come in. So my bad. Thank you for the correction there. All right. I'm Joe Tarosian, and this is RamView. I was a sports writer for 21 years. I was one of the founders at Mid-Valley Sports. Those guys cover the NFL right now, and I do RamView thanks to our sponsors at Kistler Law and Temple City Auto Repair. And so I do that. I write books. You can find them on Amazon. I've written a couple of football novels, and I do that to support myself because my day job is I pastor a small church in Burbank Faith Nazarene, and you can find us right here on YouTube at Burbank Faith Virtual and our website, burbankfaithvirtual.com, as well as Burbank Faith Virtual across social media. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your likes. Thank you for your subscriptions. Thank you for your comments. They keep us in the algorithm. If you can keep doing that, and also if you can make the trek over to Spotify, as our footprint there is like a pinky toe. Maybe half a pinky toe with a short nail. We need more presence on Spotify, but we do thank you for your support here and for your likes and subscribes. Questions, feel free to ask. Disagreements are encouraged. If you got a disagreement, I won't call you an idiot. Your opinions matter. And as we watch the NFL, we see the things happening in the NFL. You know what you're seeing, right? And you don't need somebody else to tell you which way the wind blows. All right, picks for this coming Sunday. Panthers, Falcons. They're in Atlanta. I like the Falcons. I'm not negative towards Bryce Young, but I just don't think they're ready. He's also got, I think DJ Chark is out. He's got some injuries there. So I'm going with the Falcons. I want to see Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, Drake London. Desmond Ridder has people there that can really, really help him. So I'm hoping it all works out. Texans and the Ravens. I think the Texans are going to be better under DeMeco Ryans. I like their team, but they're young. Baltimore could win this in a boat race. I think Baltimore, the first month of the season, everyone's going to be talking Super Bowl. And by November, when everyone starts going down, everyone's going to be wondering what happened again. Bengals, Browns, Cincy, if you want me to believe, you have to beat the Browns, right? I know the Browns give the Bengals trouble, but if you want our support, our trust, our belief, you have to win. You have to beat the Browns, right? Jaguars, Colts. A lot of folks are going with the Colts at home. I'm going with Trevor Lawrence and the Jags. I saw the playoffs last year. I'm trusting in this Jaguar team and Doug Peterson. Bucks, Vikings. Tampa Bay is going to be sent to Valhalla in week 1. I don't think the Vikings are great, but I don't think the Bucks are going to win this one. Titans, Saints. There's a lot of people for some reason who really love the Saints, but I like them, and I like them enough over the Titans on the road. 49ers, Steelers. Steeler fan Rob has sold me. I take Pitt by double digits, and what I mean by double digits, by 10 points. I don't think the 49ers with Kittle, Bosa just getting his feel, Brock Purdy against a great defense. I like the Steelers in this one by 10 points or more. Cards, Texans. Ron Rivera should be fired before leaving the field if Washington loses this game. Go Texans. Packers, Bears. I had the Pack until I saw the injury report going with Justin Field and the Bruins. Raiders, Broncos. Sean Payton cannot lose this game. Neither can Russell Wilson. Obviously, they said we just read Chandler Jones isn't playing for the Raiders. And for goodness sakes, it's the Raiders, right? If you're serious, you got to beat the Raiders in Invesco or Mile High or whatever we're calling it these days. Dolphins, Bolts. Never trusted the Bolts. Never. It could be Tua time. All right, I'm going with the Dolphins in that one. Cowboys, G-Men. Pokes, better circle the wagons. Giants, to steal from Colorado now, are coming. The Cowboys have trouble on the offensive line. I'm not a big Dak Prescott believer. I don't think the running back room. I think Tony Pollard's a complimentary guy, and they're paying him like a number one. And I don't think Trayvon Diggs is that great of a corner. I think he's feast or famine. And I think Brian Daboll outcoaches outcoaches Mike McCarthy. So I'm going G-Men at home against the Cowboys. On Monday's game, Bills-Jets, I'll let you know on Monday. On this date in Ram history in 1971, they signed Kid Geddes to the taxi squad, and by 1973, he was the starting left side linebacker, never missing a game. After the 75 season, he was lost to the Seahawks in the expansion draft, played 3 years there, and then retired. Rams on this day in 1985 beat the Broncos 20-16 in Anaheim. Charles White ran for 83 yards and a fourth quarter touchdown as the Rams came back to win that one. It was Dieter Brock's debut. He threw 2 picks. Gary Green had a pick and a sack, and Vince Newsom had a pick. All right. 1991, the Giants, Rams beat the Giants in the Meadowlands. 1913, Robert Del Pino ran for 116 yards. Tony Zendejas of the kicking Zendejas brothers had 4 field goals. Moving forward, as you know, last year on this day, the Rams actually gave Les Snead a 4-year contract extension. So he's the Rams GM through 2026, but they also lost to the Buffalo Bills 31-10. And you saw that one coming. Everyone had to see that one coming. Here was an interesting one. I hated the Vikings when I was younger. My hatred for the Vikings has lessened because they're just not a threat anymore, especially when they decided hosting Super Bowls was more important than going to Super Bowls by building an indoor stadium, when if they had built an outdoor stadium, they would have teams in fear of going to Minnesota in the winter. And right now they lost all that advantage. So I hated them, but there was a cornerback that played for them, and his name was Nate Wright. And what I didn't know was Nate Wright was in the Rams camp in 1971. He was an undrafted free agent out of San Diego State, started with the Falcons, cup of coffee with the Cardinals. He was signed by the Rams in July of 71, but on September 9th, which is tomorrow, he was released by the Rams, and then he eventually worked his way to the Vikings, where he ended up playing 10 years as a cornerback for the Vikings. 13 years total in the league, 156 games, 100 games he started. He wore number 43. He picked off 34 passes, really competent player, played in 12 postseason games, all 3 of the Vikings' later Super Bowl losses in 73, 74, and 76, which I share with much glee. But the thing about Nate Wright is you see him every time you see top 10 plays in NFL history. And you might not know that, but he's the DB that Cowboy receiver Drew Pearson pushed off on illegally in the Cowboys-Vikings Hail Mary playoff game. You watch that, and everyone talks about this Hail Mary, and you see Drew Pearson, number 88, just like every other Cowboy who's worn number 88, pushing off Nate Wright, catching the pass, and the Cowboys winning that game. Of course, Pearson isn't the only Cowboy receiver wearing number 88 to push his way into the Hall of Fame that way. But I just thought Nate Wright deserved some recognition. I did not realize the Rams had him in camp and made a decision to go with Gene Howard and Jim Nettles and those guys over Nate Wright, who had another 10 years in him. Interesting. 1992, Rams released nose tackle Alvin Wright, very underrated, just a hole plugger. But here's the thing. He played 6 seasons for the Rams at nose tackle. He was a 4-year starter. Unfortunately, he passed away in 2018 at the age of 57. But here's this big Bubba that we thought was a big Bubba in 1990 or 1989. Alvin Wright was locked in at 6'2", 274. 6'2", 274. 274 for a nose tackle? They'll blow you off the line of scrimmage nowadays at that weight. Our centers are going at 330, blocking a nose tackle at 274. Man, just a different world. Okay, we've hit the 28-minute mark, and we're going to get into that real quick here. Oh, I need to do the Kistler Law trivia question of the day. I think this is an easy one for Ram fans, but maybe you don't know without searching it out, okay? Let me ask you this. The Kistler Law Rams trivia question of the day. What do Brett Romberg, Nick Leckey, Jason Brown, Robert Turner, and Scott Wells all have in common for the Rams? What do Brett Romberg, Nick Leckey, Jason Brown, Robert Turner, and Scott Wells all have in common for the Rams? And I'll give you the answer in a moment. All right.
It was a stone
groove. It's going to be a stone groove, but the show isn't over just yet. We got to talk about Sunday. It's week 1, Seattle. Now it counts. Do the Rams have a chance, right? Yes. As long as you have Sean McVay as HC and Matthew Stafford standing upright, the Rams have a chance. This Rams team by week 4 last year was completely outmatched due to injuries and everything last year. But they kept playing, in fact, only losing to the Seahawks by a combined 7 points. And they nearly pulled off the win, by 7 points, yeah, both games. And the Rams have had success in Seattle under McVay. In fact, I think they're 8-5 overall against Seattle in McVay's tenure. And I think there was a Zerline field goal that would have won it that was missed in 2019. I believe it was. I'd have to go back and look it up. But yeah, they've done very well against Pete Carroll. Not so well against Kyle Shanahan, but against Pete Carroll. So they can win this game, definitely. And it wouldn't be a miracle. It would be a solid win. So yeah, it's not like the miracle on ice, right? It would be a nice win. It would be a very good win. But given this team's youth and the uncertainty of the pass rush, which bugged me more than Cooper Kupp being out, I don't believe it's likely they'll win. So I can see the Rams, and again, I'll say it again, I can see the Rams starting off this season 0-3. Everyone asking for McVay's head. Everyone asking for McSnead's head. Everyone saying, trade Matthew Stafford. Why did they trade Stafford for Goff? And, why did they trade Goff for Stafford and all that kind of stuff? But if we could keep our heads, I could see this team finishing 9-8. I can. I think there's an avenue to get there as long as the team keeps improving. And we're not talking Jeff Fisher here. We're not talking Scott Linehan, right? We're not talking Steve Spagnuolo. We're talking Sean McVay, right? And he's done a great job. So pound Akers until he taps the hat and wants out of the game. Pound him, pound him, pound him. One thing McVay is guilty of is there have been times when he hasn't had patience with the running game. It doesn't matter if it's a 2-yard gain per attempt. The Rams need to keep running the ball. The Seahawks are vulnerable there. Gurley was the difference to Goff's success. I understand that, Tim. Yeah, I get that. And look what Goff has around him right now. I agree. I think there's a lot playing into that. Pound Akers till he taps the hat, because the Seahawks are vulnerable in their belly, right? Eat clock and keep the defense from being overexposed. If they can accomplish those things, I really think they got a shot to win this game. As it stands right now, I see the Seahawks 28, Rams 20. I just do. I can't see an avenue to victory in this game. Is it possible? Yeah, we're always wrong, but I think the Rams get the Seahawks. When the Seahawks come to SoFi, it was at week 11, right after the bye. I think they could actually put some hurt on the Seahawks, but that defense has to have time to develop. It has to get punched in the nose, find its resolve, and come back. Remember, Aaron Donald's great, but Aaron Donald doesn't play corner. Aaron Donald doesn't play the edge. And so yeah, I do think the Rams have a shot, but I'm going Seahawks on Sunday. All right, I think that's it. I think we're good. Answer to the Kistler Law trivia question of the day. Does anyone out there have an answer? Does anyone have an answer? Rams-Vikings playoff online, flinched less than Taylor all night, caused the Rams a touchdown and eventually the game. Rams O-line, there you go. So there we go. Real quick here, Kistler Law trivia question of the day. What do Brett Romberg, Nick Leckie, Jason Brown, and Robert Turner and Scott Wells have in common? Hopefully you don't want Plashke to call me. There we go. Make sure my phone is off now. Anyone know? You got 5 seconds. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Brett Romberg, Nick Leckie, Jason Brown, Robert Turner, and Scott Wells were all centers for the Rams in those last 7 years in St. Louis. Actually, 8 years, I think, after Eddie McCollum retired. There you go. They were all centers for the St. Louis Rams. And then in 2016, it was Tim Barnes. And then, thank goodness, sane and reasonable thinking returned to the Rams, and it was John Sullivan for 2 years. All right. Okay, folks, I think that's it. And
stay in your lane, bro.
I stayed in my lane. And it was a stone groove. Everyone that's been clicking on, thank you so much. I'm going to let you go now. Go Rams. We'll see you Monday morning and let's just enjoy this season as we see it play out. All right. God bless. Be sure to hit like, subscribe, hit share, and we will talk to you soon. Go Rams.